All right. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Heather, and I am a librarian with the Plano Public Libraries. And for this program, Exploring City of Plano Jobs, we have employees from different departments joining us to talk about their department, what the job is, what they do, and share a little bit about openings if anyone is interested. So many cities provide these services for their residents, and it requires lots of great people to work in those departments. Today and in the upcoming weeks, we'll be finding out about all sorts of different areas of the city of Plano and what we're doing, what types of job opportunities are available that can be found throughout the city and on our website. And today we're going to be hearing from Jessica Stewart. So thank you all for being with us today. Jessica, I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Heather. Again, my name is Jessica Stewart. I am with a recruiting and record specialist with the City of Plano, Public Safety Communications. So let me just get my screen up for you, and I have a presentation that I'll be showing y'all today. So just a little bit about me. I started with the city 9 years ago, and I have been within the role as recruiting and record specialist for the last 6 years. I also worked a short time with our municipal court as a court clerk, but most of my time has been over here with PSC. So I just want to say thank you for taking the time to learn more about Plano Public Safety Communications with me today.
Oh,
So
Jessica, I'm sorry to interrupt here. I just realized I forgot to mention about questions today. If anybody has questions, please submit those through the Q&A section on your Zoom, and we will get to those at the end. Sorry, Jessica, thank you.
no problem, perfect, thank you. All right, so welcome to Dispatch. You may not recognize the name Plano Public Safety Communications, but we are your 911 center for the city of Plano. You may have spoken with us over the phone or seen us out at different events in the city, such as the Balloon Festival, Christmas Parade, or even National Night Out. I'm going to speak with you about our department, our personnel, both the call taking and dispatch side of public safety, some daily and annual statistics, as well as different programs that you may not realize that are available to you. I want to quickly speak about the heads of our department. So we have Susan Carr, who is our director, and she's been with our department for 37 years. Next is Michelle Haggerty. She's our administrative manager, and she has been with our department for 23 years. And finally, Jennifer Himes, who is our operations manager, and she's been with our department for 22 years. We are very fortunate to have leaders who have experienced what it is like starting at the entry point of this position as a call taker and moving through the different ranks of the department into the roles that they are in today. So our department has two operations centers. We have our main operations center where our day-to-day operations take place that is located at the Municipal Center in downtown Plano. We have our secondary operations center, which is located at Parker and Independence behind the fire station. This facility is utilized in the event our main center is down. For example, if there was ever any flooding or electrical outages here at the main station. It is set up with the same computer systems and radio system as our main center, so we're able to quickly get operations back up and running. We have an open floor plan with sectioned off and laid out to have each responsibility in the same area. So we have our call takers, our fire dispatchers, our police dispatchers, NCIC dispatchers, ops, which is our relief stations for the police and the NCIC dispatchers, our training consoles, which are utilized for our communications training officers when they are needing to monitor the trainees that are going through on the job training. And then we have our supervisor console, which is placed in the middle of the room to be able to reach and monitor the entire floor. Next, I'm going to speak a little bit about the security of our department. Our center is a secured environment that follows all regulations required by NCIC and TCOL, which is our licensing agency. We have security cameras with 24/7 monitoring to make sure we are aware of what is happening both at our building and a few other locations within the city. We are a limited card access department, and that means that only personnel who have been cleared to enter into the secured areas are able to do so. Whenever we have visitors that may come down, they have to undergo a screening process to enter into certain areas, and they will always be escorted by approved personnel. So working in 911, it's a very serious job. And there's a very thorough process that we go through to hire on as a 911 call taker because we have the responsibility of the first responders and our citizens to make sure this job is done correctly. So the different steps of our hiring process are a typing test, which you have to reach a minimum score of at least 35 words per minute, a personal history statement that's an in-depth packet where the applicant will provide personal information, work, driving, education, and their criminal history, as well as references. Then you will have an initial one-on-one interview with one of the recruiters, a polygraph exam, a psychological evaluation, a final interview, and a floor observation where the applicant has the opportunity to shadow a call taker or a dispatcher, and then they get to speak with one of our managers. And finally, there is medical testing and a drug screen. The medical testing includes a hearing, vision, color vision test, and medical physical. Our entire process takes about 6 to 8 weeks to complete, and that's from application to hire date. And the ratio of applicants that apply to those that are hired is about 100 to 1. Because of this, you'll see job postings for our department on a monthly basis. So our department is made up of 73 call taker and dispatcher positions, 6 dispatch supervisor positions, and 13 staff positions. So I'm going to briefly talk and give a description about each of our staff positions. So first, the public information specialist, and she is responsible for educating the public. She goes out to speak with our schools about 911 safety. She speaks with our senior citizen groups, gives tours of our center, and she is also the liaison for public records. We have our data coordinator, and he's responsible for tracking the statistics of our department, keeping our systems up to date with new and changing addresses, as well as tracking all the data for other departments and agencies. We have 6 training coordinators, and they're responsible for training our new hires, the continuing education of the entire department, as well as the quality assurance for calls, radio traffic, and for service. Our administrative supervisor is the direct supervisor for our training coordinators, and he helps them with the training process for our personnel. He maintains our department's policies, and he's responsible for making sure our department standards are being met for the requirements of our accreditations. There are 2 recruiting and record specialists, and we're responsible for recruiting new potential applicants, completing the hiring process for each applicant, as well as additional liaisons for public records. Our administrative coordinator is responsible for keeping track of the accounting side of our department, including invoices, budget, expenses, payroll, etc. And then we have our administrative assistant, and she is the first face you see when coming into our suite. She checks in our visitors, welcomes our new hires on their first day, and gives them all the equipment that they will need, as well as assisting our administrative coordinator with orders, payments, data keeping, uniforms, etc. We have 3 different shifts in our department. The first is our call taker shift, and this is for our new hires. Once they have finished the classroom training portion of their hiring, they begin on the job training, and their schedule is from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Once released from training, the 2 shifts for the department are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. A work week for the department is 3 12-hour days, 1 4-hour day, and then 3 consecutive days off. So our call takers are the answering point for all emergency and non-emergency calls for service within the city. We process police, fire, medical, and animal control calls. This is truly an entry-level position. There is no previous experience required. Our minimum requirements are at least 18 years old, having your high school diploma or GED, and being a US citizen. You will receive approximately 17 weeks of training, including classroom and on the job. The starting salary for this position is $25.20 an hour, which is about $50,400 a year. And the benefits included with this position are all of the City of Plano full-time benefits that you can see here. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about call taking and our 3 dispatch channels. So first, call taking. We have 9 call taker consoles. There are 6 monitors at each position. We have 2 mapping systems. The first one is when the phone is for the phones, and that's when for a map that shows where the phone that is calling in is routing at. The other is for showing where the responders are and where the calls for service have been entered. We have our anti-alley screen, which matches the phone number the caller is calling from in an approximate location. If the caller is calling from a landline, business, or VoIP line, we will get the location for where the phone is registered. If the caller is calling from a cell phone, we get a wireless location based off the cell phone towers. There are 2 types of wireless locations that we receive. There's wireless phase 1, which is for a generalized location based off the nearest cell phone tower to the caller. This is not an accurate location to send responders to. You will see this type of response with older phones or phones that are not as up to date. Then there's wireless phase 2. This is a more accurate location for the caller from a cell phone tower. If you have an up-to-date technology or a newer phone, we will have a more accurate location. However, these are not exact locations, so staying on the line and providing your address is extremely important. TDD and TTY is a system that we use to communicate with callers who are deaf or hard of hearing. If there's ever a 911 call and the line is completely silent, the call taker will test this system to determine whether the caller is using the system or if it is simply a silent line. Our department does constant continuing education related to this so that we stay up to date with these practices. We also have Language Line, which is a system that we use when speaking with a caller that needs an interpreter to communicate with the call taker. There will be some statistics that I'll show you later in the presentation to show how much that this service is utilized. Plano is also one of the cities that has text to 911 capability, and that is done through our phone monitor. If you're unable to speak, but you have an emergency, you can text 911 from your cell phone. You would simply type 911 in the to portion of your message and then text us your emergency. And if you need to have someone respond or you need to speak with us, but it is not an emergency, you can call our non-emergency number, which is listed here at the bottom. Our department has 3 radio channels. All 3 of our channels are experienced physicians, and you can be considered for them approximately 6 months after you've been released as a call taker. I'm going to start off by talking about our police dispatchers. They're responsible for dispatching the police officers to calls for service, and they also manage the units across the city. This requires an additional training for about 6 to 8 weeks. The police console has 7 monitors, the same 6 that you see at call taking, plus a radio monitor. There are 2 main police channels. The city is divided into east and west by Custer Road. So PD1 dispatches for the east side of the city, which is east of Custer, and PD2 dispatches for the west side of the city, which is west of Custer. We also have access to PD radio channels throughout the area. This is very helpful in the event that there's a major incident occurring in a surrounding city that may enter into our city. We are able to then prepare our units for this incoming traffic. Next, I'm going to speak about our NCIC dispatchers. NCIC stands for the National Crime Information Center, and they are responsible for searching those databases to find information officers need. They also verify warrants and stolen items. They order tow trucks if one is needed to respond to an incident, and they make additional calls for officers to aid them while they are out on a call. There are two NCIC positions: main, which works the main traffic channel that comes in over the radio for the officers, and backup, which is there to aid the main dispatcher with officer requests or answering the 911 and non-emergency lines. NCIC has 8 monitors per position, the same 6 that are at call taking, 1 monitor for the radio, and there's an additional monitor that's used for searching databases for missing and wanted persons, stolen vehicles and weapons, security, as well as our covert tracking system. Our last channel is fire dispatch, and they're responsible for dispatching fire calls for service. They're also responsible for managing the fire apparatus and medical units across the city. Fire dispatch has 1 main channel and with up to 3 backup channels. There are 7 monitors per position, the same 6 that are at call taking, and 1 additional monitor for the radio. Like PD, FD has access to FD radio channels throughout the area. Police dispatch for fire uses an automated dispatcher, which automatically sends the closest apparatus to respond to the call. The dispatcher then takes over by providing additional patient or call information to the responders. FD dispatch is also responsible for controlling the outdoor warning systems. Because of this, they also listen to the weather radio channel. There are 43 sites for the outdoor warning system, and our system is tied to WBAP 820 AM, Time Warner Channel 16, and Frontier Files Channel 30. This system is tested on the first Wednesday of the month at 12 p.m. with weather permitting. Shown here is our family progression pay scale for the department. The different levels for dispatch are dispatcher 1, 2, and 3. These levels are based off of what channels you are trained on and your years of experience with the department. Here are some numbers for a typical day in dispatch. This is an average because each day can be different with the amount and type of calls that we may receive. As you can see, most of our calls come in from cell phones and internet phones. In addition to the different types of calls that we receive, we also have officers and firefighters doing self-initiated calls for service. Plano 911, we dispatch 166,983 emergency calls for service in 2023. We dispatched 121,932 non-emergency calls, and we took 4,360 calls where we used the language line. So on the slide that you can see that the Spanish interpreters were used the most with 4,094 of the calls. However, I want you to see that there's a total of 31 different languages that we use interpreters for, which is pretty mind-blowing. So I'm going to finish out our presentation with talking about a couple of programs that we offer. You may be hearing about them for the first time, or this could be a refresher for information you may have heard about previously. Both of these programs are free for our citizens here in Plano. They're great support for families and caregivers in case of an emergency. One of these programs is called My Safety Call. This is a program that is a daily wellness call. You have a scheduled time, and there will be a wellness check if you don't answer the phone call. There is no age requirement, but it is a great resource for the elderly, anyone recovering from surgery, and anyone who is on short or long-term rehab. You're able to pause or cancel this service at any time. And so far, this program has already saved 4 lives. So please call the number listed here, or you can visit our website for further information. The second program I want to speak about is Smart 911. This is an app that you can download or fill out a profile online. This allows you to leave whatever information you want first responders to know if they ever have to respond to your residents. For example, medication, lockbox or gate code information, your medical history, blood type, physical description, name of yourself and other family members at your household, your emergency contacts, even your pets. This will work if you call an agency that works in a smart 911 community, and we will only get the information if you call 911 while you're in Plano. So please, I just want to finish by saying, please follow us on Facebook. We provide emergency update information, different educational videos, as well as utilizing this platform to shine a light on our dispatchers, whether it's special awards, birthdays, or department anniversaries. Thank you very much for taking time to listen and learn more about Plano Public Safety Communication. Please see my name and contact information here. And now we're going to take time to answer any of the questions that y'all may have been entering in the Q&A chat. And Keisha Hogan, our public information specialist, is going to be joining me for this portion.
Hi, Jess, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, let me try to get my video to work. Hi.
I don't see any questions at the time in the chat, but Keisha did, if you see in the chat, she did drop more information about the My Safety Call program, as well as information about Smart 911 if you wanted any more information about that.
And I'm also going to drop the link for our Facebook page if you'd like to follow us, so you can just see what we're up to and get more information as we're out at events in the community. Okay. Well, to tell you a little bit more about us, I think people have misperceptions about dispatching in 911. They believe that we're like telephone operators or secretaries, but we have extensive training in medical dispatching, geography, and crisis management. We spend a lot of time training to make sure that we can handle any type of emergency that comes our way. They also think that our call goes to like one big nationwide center, but as you saw, Plano has its own state of the art center that's here local in our community. People also tend to think that we've got the answers to every single problem that they could call about. For things like power outages, we direct people to call the power company. And if they're locked at their house, we say, call your locksmith. And I think for most people, when they call 911, they also think that we know their exact location. And we don't necessarily know exact, we get a good idea, but it's not 100% accurate. That's why we go out and teach the community about making sure to know their addresses. And I go to schools to make sure kids learn to give their address when they call 911.
I see the question here about what is the use of the non-emergency number. Sometimes we will get calls from anytime there's another department within the city that may be outside of their regular business hours, and you push zero, or if you call the City of Plano number and push zero, you will reach down into dispatch. So that line can be used, but we've also answered emergencies on that line as well and still send out police calls for service. So that's where that over 120,000 calls came from. So it's utilized anytime that the caller doesn't feel the needed to call 911, but they still wanted to speak with, dispatch, a first responder, something to that effect, and that's what you utilize that number for.
All right, we have a couple of other questions here as well. How do you locate the position of a soft client phone call?
Can I ask for clarification on what you mean by soft client phone call?
Okay, while we're waiting for clarification on that one, our next call, how do you differentiate a robocall or an AI generated call?
Well, it really depends because as you're taking a 911 call, we're getting lots of different information. And so we're getting addressing information. We're trying to see, is it coming from a computer? So it'll have a voice over IP address attached to it. So we're taking in that data. And let's say somebody does robocall us or they do try to use an AI generated voice. We take those requests seriously and we send an officer out to investigate. We will let them determine about what the validity of that call is, but we're going to treat it because it's an emergency situation. We're going to treat it as an actual call until we have reason to think otherwise.
Okay. Our next one here, what experience does this position require?
It does not require any experience. It truly is an entry level position. All of the training that's done in that 17 weeks, you are going to receive here, and it is paid training. So, those minimum qualifications of at least 18, high school diploma or GED, and US citizen are the minimum qualifications to apply. So, there are different steps within the process, whether it's something discovered in your initial background or another phase along the process that may cause you not to pass if you meet one of the disqualifiers that we're required to have by our licensing agency. However, the initial entry level, you don't have to have any previous experience to do this position.
Okay. You gonna get that one, Jessica? The initial and
Yes,
final
so
pay.
the initial pay grade is the 25.20 an hour. And with the step plan, at the final step of dispatch level 3, you're at about 70,000 a year, 73,000 a year. So with that is kind of that's the scale that you're looking at from the beginning of call taker to the final steps of dispatch level 3.
And I do want to add um, that yearly can go up because we do have overtime that's available. Or if people want to work more hours, because of course we have those 3 days off, if that's something you're interested in, you can work overtime in order to earn more.
Yes.
It looks like we got clarification from that first question on a soft client phone call. Is a call from WhatsApp or maybe a Zoom app or something?
Yeah, so those come across our system the same way as phone calls do. Like I said, we'll get IP addresses, we'll get other information that will tell us more about the location of the call or if this is calling from an internet provider like WhatsApp, like Zoom, things like that. But we're still going to be doing a lot of questioning to ask about the address, the location. Is your call even in Plano city limits, or do we need to get you to another agency nearby in order to get assistance? So we do handle all of those type of calls, but it's just a matter of what kind of data is coming across on the initial contact.
And I
All
see the
right.
question here also about, is this job only for citizens? Unfortunately, that is a requirement for our Commission of Law Enforcement, the Texas Commission of Law Enforcement. You have to be a US citizen to receive the license as a telecommunicator. So yes, you have to be a US citizen, but that does not apply to all the jobs within the city, more specifically for dispatch because of our licensing agency. Yes, I'll
Yes.
have if either Keisha or I will drop into the chat where you can check for open positions. It's on the plano.gov/jobs, and I believe that Stephanie or Heather would be talking about it at the end as well, of where you can apply. But we actually come up first because it's listed in numerical order. So 911, we are the first job that's listed there, but that will have all of the positions within the city that are open at this time. You're very welcome.
Okay, and I'm also going to drop a few videos in the chat too if you just want to get like a tour of our center. We recently have them on YouTube, so I'll put some of those down there if you guys are interested.
And we do still have plenty of time for other questions. If there are any others, please submit those to the chat. I'm sorry, the Q&A. Okay, well, if there are no more questions for our presenters, as Jessica mentioned, Stephanie does have, oh, hold on. I think we got another one. A couple more. Okay, so one
Unfortunately,
is,
no, we do not have any work from home positions. Kind of a little bit about with the security slide that I mentioned, there is so much security that goes into this position that it wouldn't be safe or responsible for us to do it from home position. So we do not have any work from home positions. And again, unfortunately, no EAD holders cannot apply. You have to be a US citizen to apply for the position because of the licensing agency. So that is specific to dispatch because of the license.
all right. If you do have some other questions, please submit those to the chat. Stephanie is going to share with you all about some library resources and programming that we have going on. If there are any other questions for our 911 dispatch representatives here, we can still answer those as well. Oh, do you accept a foreign degree?
As long as we can confirm that it is a legitimate, and it doesn't have to be college, it is high school diploma or GED, as long as we can determine that it was from a legitimate education facility or license, then we are able to accept that.
Okay. I think I'm gonna segue to the Plano Public Library resources that we have available for our participants. I have a little PowerPoint. You guys can see that.
Yes.
Sorry, 1 second. So we have job and career resources. LinkedIn Learning is one of our more popular ones because it has a lot of technical classes like Microsoft Office Suite and like a bunch of Adobe Creative Suite courses as well. So they're like video courses with some quizzes at the end. And then there's also a lot of soft skills too, if you're interested in that. So like time management and conflict resolution and stuff like that. We have several resume and design job search. So if you go to tutor.com, there are some resources on there for resume help. We also have several databases. So for business research, we have reference solutions, and these you can access on the Plano Library website under research and learn, which we might be able to show you later, but there's like a PDF with the list of all of the databases that you have available with links to them. And that's where you'll find a link to all of these like LinkedIn Learning and reference solutions. For career exploration, if you want to learn more about careers you may be interested in, we do have Learning Express Library, and then even Canopy. Usually we refer people to Canopy for like children's programming and movies, but there's definitely some helpful like job research references in there. And then if you want more individual help, you always have the option to book a librarian. I think you can do like I think there's an option for a video chat with them, or you can meet up in person. And that's just more individual help. Business news, you have access to stuff like the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Harvard Business Review. Dallas Morning News, and other newspapers. We also have newspapers in several other languages. And then ebooks and e-magazines. We have 100 plus e-magazines, including Forbes, Fortune, Bloomberg Businessweek, Newsweek. And then on the lighter side, we do have certain programs for art and creativity, classes, kits, magazines, 3D design. So like, for example, we have had classes on stuff like, again, like the Adobe Creative Suite, the Microsoft Office Suite, there's a lot of software programs that we do too. Language learning, Pronunciator. You can learn 80 plus languages online. There's a lot of options on there. Something I like about it is like for Spanish, they do differentiate between like Spain Spanish and Mexican Spanish, stuff like that. So if you want to learn other languages, you can check out Pronunciator. We also have bilingual backpacks. So those come with like usually stuff like flashcards and books to help you practice. Family engagement, STEAM activities, read, write, explore. And then we do have upcoming classes. Like I said, we have programs, a lot of business and career programs. So there's the Job Resource Connection, Mondays from 6:30 to 8 at Harrington. Exploring City of Plano jobs, like we mentioned, it is a recurring series. So we'll have various people come in and explain what they do. That's Thursdays, 1 p.m. online. Job searching with Google, Tuesdays, 6:30 to 8 at Harrington or virtual. And then for technology, I already said, Adobe Creative Suite, PowerPoint, 3D printing design. And you can always go to the library website where we have a calendar, and we also have the Engage brochure. We print those, they're physical Engage brochures in the library that have all of the programs for each season. You can also access that Engage brochure online. There is a PDF on the library website. Okay, and then for more information about City of Plano job opportunities, head over to the library, to the city website, plano.gov/jobs. And then right here, you can see, it's gonna take you here, view jobs available at the City of Plano. And there's a search bar. You can search whatever specific job you want, but like our presenter said, the 911 will probably be at the top of the list of all the jobs available. If you have further questions after the program, you can still reach out to us and we'll try to get some answers for you. You can contact library outreach at plano.gov, and we have several websites you can visit: planolibrary.org, planolibrarylearns.org, and we also have a podcast, Plano Library Speaks. Okay, and that's that for the library resources, but let us know if you have any more questions on that.
All right, looks like we have another question for our dispatchers. Do you need Chinese language call takers?
Well, we love that we have call takers that speak different languages. I know we have some currently that speak Spanish. We do need everybody to speak English because that is the majority of the calls that we field. But if you speak a second language, it's always an asset to our department.
All right, do we have any other questions? All right, Keisha and Jessica, I do not see any other questions coming in at this time. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing all about your position within the city. If anybody does have any other questions, we will still be here for a couple more minutes. However, thank you all for joining us today, and we hope to see you again at our next program.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us. We appreciate it.